Under the sterile white glow of the Galactic Concorde's chambers, silence hung like a blade. The humans sat still, a delegation of calm faces concealing a storm. Around them, alien diplomats exchanged pleasantries in tones soaked with artificial warmth, masking the fear pulsing beneath. This wasn't a peace summit, it was a ceremony to forget. But humans remembered. The galaxy believed it had moved on. Treaties were signed. Trade resumed. Words like recovery, coexistence, and unity were tossed around like ceremonial incense. But no ceremony could burn away the scent of burned flesh or the sound of orbital strikes vaporizing cities filled with sleeping children. 99 million. That number lived behind every blink of every surviving human. Not soldiers. Civilians. Scientists. Teachers. Infants. Vaporized by fleets that now sat represented at this table. The war had ended because humanity had made it end. Not through diplomacy. Through terror. The Leviathan Protocol had never been deployed, but its shadow loomed long enough to make the Council sweat. Earth was declared stable, and humans were labeled a contained threat. The peace wasn't earned, it was negotiated from fear. And humanity let them believe the threat was neutralized. They played the part. Until now. He sat quiet among the delegates. Not a soldier anymore. Not a politician. Just a presence. A monument made of breath and grief. They said he hadn't spoken since the ceasefire. Said he watched his outpost burn while commanding reinforcements that never came. Said he once held his daughter's charred pendant in blood-stained gloves. They said many things. He confirmed none. Because words never mattered to the dead. The galactic representatives were celebrating an accord on resource sharing. The talks buzzed with performative optimism. The war, they claimed, was a misunderstanding. A preemptive correction. The Trazari delegate praised humanity's resilience under pressure, a phrase that made the human diplomat clench her jaw. The Quarn admiral spoke of lessons learned. The Drazer envoy, who once approved a bombardment that turned Mars Colony 2 into a glass crater, smiled as if history had forgotten. But Earth hadn't forgotten. Earth was documenting. Data had been extracted. Logs decrypted. Ship orders traced. A quiet intelligence arm had worked in the shadows for years, compiling everything the Council tried to erase. When the truth surfaced, it came without warning. A live leak during the summit played across every central screen in the chamber. The first file was simple. A timestamp, a location, and the designation of a Drazer flagship launching orbital weapons towards civilian biodomes. The second file named the Quarn general who authorized a fleet to blockade Earth's supply lines, starving 13 outer colonies. The third was worse. A directive signed by 6 council members calling for biological suppression of the human reproductive curve. Genocide wrapped in bureaucracy. The room reacted as if stunned, but it was performative shock. Everyone already knew. The data only made it undeniable. Their masks cracked. The veneer of unity faded. Whispers erupted. Denials. Finger-pointing. Threats. The human diplomat stood silently, watching. Then she turned. And he stepped forward. For the first time since the ceasefire, he moved like judgment incarnate. His uniform bore no rank, no insignia, just black over gray and a small, nearly invisible pin, 99 red dots. One for every million. He walked to the center. Inserted a data shard. The room dimmed as holoprojections flickered to life. First, a burning human colony under siege, screams captured in the last transmission. Then, satellite footage of children in shelters before vaporization. Then silence. No music. No speech. Just the visual weight of atrocity. He faced them. No expression. No vengeance in his voice, just a steady, cold verdict. You have killed our 99 million humans. Nothing more. It was a sentence, not a statement. A declaration so sharp it cut through centuries of lies. No shouts followed. No one spoke. The words echoed through the comms of every attending fleet, through the neural feeds of watching systems, and into the consciousness of a galaxy that had grown too comfortable rewriting history. The hero's voice was quiet, but its weight was immeasurable. It wasn't about retribution. It was about truth. A reminder, a warning, and a signal. In that instant, the purpose of the summit shifted. This wasn't about peace anymore. This was a funeral for delusion. The humans hadn't come to reconcile. They'd come to reveal. Not their weapons, not their technology, but their memory. Unforgiving, precise, permanent. Every alien present now understood. The war hadn't ended. It had only paused. And now, humanity had pressed play. The room remained frozen in the shadow of that single sentence. No voice rose in rebuttal. No delegate shifted in their seat. The silence wasn't respect, it was fear. Real, raw, unfiltered fear. The kind that crackled in the spine and made even the most arrogant empires remember what they chose to forget. Humans never forgive and they never forget. The chamber's lighting dimmed further as external control systems flickered and failed. Alien technicians tapped frantically at consoles, but all inputs had been locked. External comms were jammed. Escape shuttles disabled. Emergency overrides rejected. Above the galactic chamber, fleets belonging to the Council's species began to report static, then silence. Human encryption had wrapped around every communication system, leaving them blind, deaf, and waiting. Then came the voice of Earth's diplomat. Cold. Unshaken. "This was never a summit," she said. "This is your trial." Holograms ignited midair again, this time displaying the names, faces, and signed orders of over 87 alien commanders and policymakers responsible for the strike. One after another, the evidence unraveled. Video logs, mission briefings, internal memos laughing about reducing the human count. Some were so detached they discussed extermination like inventory. Testimonies followed, survivors patched in through encrypted link. A colony girl who lost her limbs under orbital fire. A man who spent a week buried under rubble beside his dead family. A medic from Europa Station, voice cracking as he described treating burn victims with no skin left to salvage. No drama. Just detail. Precise. Calm. Unignorable. The council fractured almost immediately. Some delegates shouted. Others pleaded ignorance. A few began blaming each other, exposing backdoor deals and secret initiative. Former allies turned enemies, clawing for distance from responsibility. But the humans didn't move. They let the aliens collapse under their own guilt. Then came the terms. The diplomat spoke with practiced neutrality. Full reparations to the outer colonies, total disarmament of offensive fleets, and a galaxy-wide admission of organized genocide. These were not requests. They were mandates. Violate them and consequences would follow. When asked what consequences, she didn't answer. She didn't have to. That answer came as the hero raised his hand and tapped the side of his neck. The Leviathan Protocol was never a myth. Above 6 capital worlds across the Galactic Council, they appeared. No warning. No arrival logs. No energy signatures. Just existence. Hulking, silent machines of war orbiting without sound. Built from obsidian alloys, without life forms aboard, they were controlled by neural links tied only to humans. Not even Earth's main fleet had control. Leviathan wasn't about destruction. It was about deterrence through absolute, silent supremacy. The hero transmitted a simple signal. Not a threat, just proof. The ships powered up. Their energy cores lit the night skies of 6 worlds in eerie patterns, casting deep blue shadows over entire continents. No missiles were launched. No bombardments commenced. Just a message sent through presence. We can and we will. One of the alien delegates collapsed in their seat. Another began pleading, offering immediate compliance. One stood defiantly, claiming retaliation would be swift. A second later, that delegate's planetary military hub went offline. Systems fried. Satellites turned to dust. Their homeworld blinded. No casualties, just silence. The diplomat stepped forward. This tribunal has ended. Earth has declared its stance. You may choose to comply. You may choose silence. But understand this: negotiation is no longer on the table. Then she turned to the hero. He stepped forward again, just as he had before. He scanned the faces in the room, and for a second, it looked as if he might speak. But he didn't. He lifted a small black device from his coat. A fail-safe trigger. His thumb hovered over the activation field, and the entire room leaned into eternity. Then, finally, he spoke. We offered you memory. You answered with denial. Now we answer with clarity. He pressed it. One Leviathan ship fired. Only one. The blast wasn't nuclear. It wasn't chemical. It was gravitational. An implosive fold that swallowed the orbiting defense ring of one alien capital and folded it into a black dot the size of a coin. Non-lethal. Calculated. Devastating. One empire brought to its knees without killing a soul. Message delivered. Humanity didn't need to conquer. They needed to remind. The galaxy watched as one of their own crumbled in the aftermath, broadcasts rolling, systems echoing the reality they never thought would come, judgment by the species they once called too emotional, too volatile, too primitive. The same species had just demonstrated surgical dominance in warfare, politics, intelligence, and consequence. There was no applause. No celebration. Earth's delegation withdrew without a word. The hero vanished with them, no trace, no monument, no title. No media statement. Humanity didn't stay to collect praise. That wasn't the point. The following weeks saw the council fracture. Reparations began. Worlds bowed. Some resisted and vanished overnight. But most complied. Not out of fear of death, but the fear of being remembered by humanity. And Earth? Earth turned inward. They withdrew from galactic trade. They sealed their borders. They stopped answering calls. No threats. No peace offerings. Just silence. A silence louder than war. They didn't demand vengeance. They demonstrated what it looked like. And the galaxy learned that when humanity mourns, it mourns in silence. But when it returns as judgment. And judgment remembers everything.